This video is brought to you by my Ko-fi. Feel free to donate if you like my work. Links down below. The Amazing Digital Circus has some incredible storyboarding, but especially in episode 6. I think it does a really effective job at helping to communicate the story. So, let's study some scenes and see what we can learn from them. When it comes to storyboarding, action scenes tend to be constructed differently to how other scenes are, particularly in terms of how they're written, drawn, and edited together. In an emotional scene, you're likely to have longer close-ups to help emphasize how a character is feeling. Our focus is on the character's emotions. You wouldn't want it to be super high energy, as that just wouldn't fit the tone. Meanwhile, in an action scene, you want movements to be quick and snappy. The focus of each cut should help emphasize motion and activity. For example, in this cut, we see Jax beginning to move. Then we cut, going to this upwards angle of him leaping in the air. The tone of these scenes is different, so the storyboarder has to account for that when drawing. Now, you probably already know that fight scenes aren't just about fighting. Even a short scene can help give us insights into how a character acts and behaves. More specifically, this scene helps us learn about Jax and Ragatha's approaches to fighting, because movement and fighting styles also help show a character's personalities, just like how jokes or dialogue can. It's like another form of characterization, but with more shooting each other. A character who's skilled with using a gun would react very differently to a situation compared to a character who's never touched a gun before. It's the same situation, but they react differently. In this case, we have Jax, who's super eager to shoot people, and then we have Ragatha, who doesn't even know how to fire a gun. Ragatha's expressions and body language are a pretty clear indicator that she's totally out of her comfort zone. She's nervous and constantly on defense. Everything about how she acts hammers home how she is a fish out of water in this situation. And then there's Jax. This episode as a whole does a great job at showing how much he's enjoying himself. He's confident, cocky, and willing to show off with big flashy moves. Did he need to jump over Ragatha to shoot her? No. Jax treats the Digital Circus adventures just like a video game. This trick shot is basically the equivalent of a kid doing a 360 no-scope in Call of Duty. The storyboarders at Glitch have managed to convey a lot of character, even in this short portion of the fight. It's simple, it's clear, and it manages to tell us more about these characters and how they approach fighting. Let's move on to the next scene. Digital Circus's senior storyboarder, A.D. Taser, gave a really useful insight into how the fights in Digital Circus are done. The biggest rule for themselves is to keep things simple. Digital Circus isn't an action show, and none of the characters are trained fighters. The Tommy gun scene is a great example of this. It manages to imply chaos without a ton of crazy shots. Rewatching it made me think more about how we can keep a fight visually clear, because even in a sequence like this, things could end up messy. You've got to be careful with the shots that you use. First, let's go through the action of the scene. Team Zooble runs down the corridor. Team Pomni shoots at them. Gangle finds the Tommy gun and turns the tables on Team Pomni. Finally, the two groups fall down before Pomni and Gangle have their quick duel. So, how are things kept clear? In any scene, we want to know where the characters are located at all times. If we don't keep the locations consistent, it can mess with the scene's clarity, and the audience could get confused. This is where the 180 rule comes in. If you're familiar with film cameras, you might have heard this term before. The 180 rule is basically an invisible line that we draw through a scene. We want to try and keep the camera on one side of this line throughout the entire scene. This helps the viewer from being confused as you cut between shots. For this example, the storyboards keep Team Zooble on the left and Team Pomni on the right. Even when the camera shot changes, you can see that we're always on the same side of the characters. This helps the audience understand where the characters are in relation to one another. The only time the 180 rule is broken in this scene is once we reach Gangle's point of view shot as she goes ham on the tummy gun. So how do the storyboards help the scene feel chaotic? Well, it's due to how the characters and camera move during Gangle's rampage. Gangle is leaping around as she comes forwards into the shot. Both Jax and Pomni have been taken entirely off guard and have to dodge wildly. We even see Pomni dropping her gun. All of this motion helps keep things kinetic, even when only a few camera angles are being used. But one of the craziest things to me is that during all of this, the characters still maintain the 180 rule, even as they fall. Team Zubul falls on the left, and Team Pomni on the right. Now, the 180 rule is a tricky idea to get your head around, but it's a really useful tool and genuinely can help so much with clarity. It's a technique I want to get better at myself, and getting to see it in action like this helps train your eye to observe it more. Now it's time to talk about the scene, which is the reason I wanted to make this video.
So, you're gonna shoot me or what?
Pomni and Jax's confrontation is such a well done scene. People have rightly talked at length about how good the writing is, and how impressive the animation of Jax's mask coming back on when he's trying to use his coping mechanism is. But I want to talk about one specific moment, the one just before the physical fight begins. When this episode first released, I saw so many comments about how they thought Pomni was about to shoot herself in front of Jax. This is not accidental. You may have already guessed, but the storyboards are designed in a way to suggest this idea, before then subverting it. I like to call this a bait and switch. The way the shots are set up are deliberately designed to make the audience think, wait, is Pomni about to shoot herself? Before then Pomni rejects this idea and begins to throw hands. The intention was to misdirect the audience. But before we analyse the storyboarding, we need to look at some of the writing cues that help set up this scene. The bait and switch is first set up with Jax's question of,
So, you're gonna shoot me or what?
Notice his gesture here. Even if it's just a fun acting choice, Jax pretending to shoot himself is subtly suggesting the idea to the audience before Pomni ends up considering it later. Next, Pomni asks,
What would you do if I abstracted tomorrow?
I'd move on. And probably forget about you.
I don't have much to say about the storyboarding of this scene, other than how uncanny Jax looks with his vacant stare and slow smile. This is him at his most insincere and cruel. Now all the cards have been set up to give this scene the tension it needs. Jax has planted the idea of someone shooting themselves. Pomni has pushed back against Jax's idea that he doesn't care. And Jax has retaliated by saying something incredibly hurtful to escape the situation. Pomni is now faced with a choice. Does she try and prove Jax wrong? The shots of her mulling the situation over place a heavy emphasis on her expression and her pistol. And then we get to this shot. This is an absolutely genius shot because it conveys so much information in a very short time. First, the gun. The gun is one of the biggest elements to the foreground. It's impossible to ignore it. We slowly see Pomni raising the gun, which I think is the main motion which helps emphasize that she might shoot herself. Next, her obscured expression. We only see her mouth, but from the context we know that she's deeply upset by Jax's words and is in a fragile mental state. We don't know what she's about to do. And finally, Jax's expression in the background. He's realised he's gone too far and tries to play off his cruel comments as a joke in the next shot. All of this comes together to form a wonderful part of the bait for the bait and switch. The tension builds and builds to the point we wonder if Pomni's going to shoot herself. And then it switches on us. The tension releases all at once, with Pomni rejecting the idea of hurting herself to make a point, instead choosing to confront Jax directly.
You're not the funny one!
This whole sequence is incredibly well directed and staged. It all comes back to the intent. This sequence provides clear hints to the idea of Pomni shooting herself, without ever explicitly stating it. That's the magic of storyboarding. There's a bunch of incredible storyboarding tricks in the Digital Circus. I really want to thank the team at Glitch for being so open to showcase and discuss their work. I got a lot of insight from doing these studies and asking AD Taser some questions on their posts. If you want me to cover another series storyboarding, let me know in the comments, and let me know how you found the format. I want to try and make more videos in this series, so any feedback is more than welcome. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon.